So, welcome to the third lesson. Today we will finish delving into the CAP governance and structure model. Um, in the first part, we have seen the governance models of the CAP, the main structure into the both pillars, and we have seen the CAP budget. Now we will finish this section looking at the new implementation model for the programming period 2023-2027, and we will look more into detail of other governance and aspects linked to CAP. As I mentioned in the previous lessons, one of the most important novelties is the shift from compliance to performance. So today, the European Commission wants that the CAP is really is capable to change some trends and to achieve some important objectives. So the old model that was based on the compliance to the rules was focused on following the rules and procedures, on detailed EU regulation and implementation. There was a limited flexibility for member states, and also so flexibility and subsidiarity for member states. The emphasis was on the correctness on spending money. In the new model, is the performance is at the center of the attentions. So the focus is on achieving results and objectives. So the EU set goals, but member states choose how to achieve them. So there is a greater subsidiarity for member states. And the emphasis now is on impacts and outcomes of the interventions. So member states now are more accountable for results. They are asked to be responsible for achieving some results and not just to be compliant with the EU regulations. So what is the intervention logic and the monitoring logical? So there are some inputs that are financial resources from EU and the co-financing from national budgets. And we have some outputs that are the activities that are put in place, that have been put in place by farmers. For example, the number of hectares supported, the number of beneficiaries, the types of interventions implemented. All these elements are the outputs. So materially, what has been done. The results, they try to estimate the direct effects. They are a combination of previous indicators. So they assess the changes in farming practices, the income stabilization, the adoption of environmental measures. There are 44 results, indicator results in the current programming period. Also, the final step are the impacts. So assessing the long-term effects of the agricultural policies. So environmental improvements, rural vitality, food security. The target setting and monitoring is one of the most demanding tasks for member states. I participated to building this framework for Italy. So each member state must set targets for each of the 9 specific objectives based on a starting situation. For example, we have provided the baselines through assessment of national trends in agricultural sector. The objectives, the targets must be realistic but ambitious, and the European Commission has very pushed national authorities to be more ambitious for environmental and social sustainability targets. So they are based on quantified result indicators, and they are based also on milestones for 2025 and targets for 2029. Some example indicator are agricultural factor income or generational renewal rate or water quality improvements. Member states have to report the progresses into all these sets of indicators yearly. The Commission assesses achievement, and potential financial adjustments are asked by the Commission if the targets are missed. The other another introduction that is one of the main features of the CAP is the conditionality. The conditionality is a baseline requirement for all CAP payments. They are requirements that farmers must fulfill to receive the payments. The conditionality applies to both Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 area-based payments. For example, it is not applied for rural Pillar 2 investments for infrastructures, for example. And violations of conditionality lead to payment reductions. The conditionality is divided into two blocks. The first blocks are the statutory management requirements that regards the EU legislation already in force. There are 13 requirements covering environment and climate, public animal and plant health, and animal welfare. The other block of the conditionality rules and standards that farmers must comply with are the good agricultural and environmental conditions. It is a set of 9 standards defined at member state level covering soil protection, water protection and management, biodiversity and landscape, climate change mitigation. I will not go too much into detail of the good agricultural and environmental condition, but I just want to highlight that they cover climate and environment, water, soil, biodiversity, and member states define specific implementation rules for each of these GAIC, for each of these conditions. In the Pillar 1, there is it has been introduced the eco schemes. Eco schemes are voluntary environmental actions for farmers, but they are mandatory for member states to offer. They reward specific environmental and climate-friendly practices, and their rationale is to design some attractive schemes that bring an increased share of farmers in the path of sustainability, green sustainability. There are some also financial targets because 21% of the Pillar 1, so direct payments budget, must be allocated to eco schemes. So once again, this is called ring fencing. Ring fencing, it is called when you allocate a fixed amount to resources to specific objectives or typologies of interventions. There are some examples of eco scheme practices. For example, organic farming, agroforestry system, precision agriculture, maintaining landscape features beyond the GAIC requirements, good agricultural and environmental condition requirements, enhanced animal welfare standards, cover crops and cover crop diversification, and carbon farming practices. For example, Italy has allocated a huge amount of resource, more than 1 billion years, for the animal welfare to build a more sustainable animal production sector and to improve and to reduce antimicrobial resistance that is due to the important use of antimicrobials in animal sector. In the first in the first pillar, you have also the risk management and crisis reserve, so voluntary environmental actions. The risk management and crisis reserve, you have an annual amount set aside from pillar one budget, approximately for 450 million euro per year, and it is used for responding to weather extreme events, animal and plant diseases, and pest infestations. So it is set as a sort of income stabilization tool, and it is becoming more and more important in the CAP budget, because it has been acknowledged that member states must be flexible and ready to respond to unpredictable events. Even also in the future CAP programming period, the crisis risk management has been developed further. Another aspect very crucial for CAP is the innovation and knowledge system. It is based mainly on the activity of the Partnership for Innovation, that are called AP Agri. These are operational groups that bring together farmers, research advisors to work on very practical, concrete practices to test and disseminate innovation solutions. In the framework of the AKIS, so Agricultural Knowledge and Information System, you find also farm advisory services, so advisories to help farmers understand requirements, to advise on sustainable practices, so for supporting for CAP application, and etc. etc. And all this system is set up to connect research, education, advisory services, to facilitate knowledge exchange and to support evidence-based farming. In this final section, we will see the CAP budget more into detail. We have already seen the total budget breakdown. We have seen that 70 to 75% of the resources are dedicated to Pillar 1, while 25% of the resources are allocated to Pillar 2, so to rural development. These are the allocation among member states. So in this graph, you see the allocation of funds among all the member states. You see that France, Germany, Spain, Italy, and Poland are the member states that receive the higher amount of resources. The allocation per member states are based on different criteria. It is a very complex system, and also is the result of also political negotiations. But basically, they are based on historical payments, on some objective criteria like agricultural area, employment, GDP. But what the Commission is trying to introduce is a gradual convergence between member states. So the European Commission is trying to avoiding that payments are different among member states, payment per farmers. So they are working a lot to narrow the gaps in support per hectare. So Pillar 2, the payment rates. In Cyprus, for example, you have nearly 350 euros per hectare. In Italy, you have less than 300 euro per hectare, and in Greece, slightly over 250 euros per hectare. While Portugal and Romania are below the EU average. Portugal is near the EU average, but Romania is below the EU average. So the European Commission is trying to narrow these gaps and to bring all the payments at a flat rate that is the same for the member states. So indeed, by 2026, no payment should be below 75% of the national average within each member state. So the convergence process is not only among member states, but is also among internal to member states, because in Italy, for example, not only all the farmers receive 20 to 275 euros per hectare. There are huge differences based on several factors. So the European Commission wants that also at internal level, at within each single member states, the payment are harmonized. We have to consider that the total public expenditure in agriculture is not only brought by the CAP, because member states can also provide national aid within certain limits that are set by EU state and rules. For example, there are different types of national support outside the CAP. There are some top-ups to keep payments when it is allowed. There is disaster relief beyond CAP crisis measures, national insurance schemes, tax benefits for agriculture, and social contribution reduction. So all these elements, all these financial elements enter into the total public expenditure. So we will now conclude this second lesson on the structure and functioning on the CAP. I would like to leave you some takeaways. So what we have learned in this video and in the previous one. So the CAP structure. So there are two complementary pillars with different approaches. First pillar is for direct payments, annual payments, etc., while the second pillar is for rural development, multi-annual commitments, competitive goals, etc., etc. But these two pillars are integrated in a single national strategic plan and the focus is on achieving 9 specific objectives instead of just being compliant with the EU rules. So indeed, the new delivery model is performance-based rather than compliance-based. There is a greater flexibility and subsidiarity for member states. The conditionality has been enhanced as a baseline. So the environmental conditions the basic environmental condition to receive payments has been enhanced. So for farmers, it is more challenging to receive CAP support because they have guaranteed good agricultural, economic, environmental conditions and the standards set by the European regulations. Also, eco schemes have been introduced for voluntary environmental actions to be adopted by each farmer. In terms of budget, we have 387 billion for the current programming period, different allocation criteria and co-financing rates depending on the member states, and this is a significant investment for European agriculture and rural areas because it absorbs 31% of the total CAP of the total EU budget. So the CAP is a sophisticated policy instrument that balances multiple objectives. There are many challenges behind these objectives, and we will see in the next lessons what they are. I like to link with the multifunctionality to conclude the lesson. How the CAP supports multifunctionality. So Pillar 1 provides mainly income stability and stabilization of incomes for farmers. Basic income support allows farmers to stay in business. Eco schemes reward environmental services, and young farmers are encouraged by specific payments. Pillar 2 is where diversification and multifunctionality take place more specifically, because in pillar 2 you can provide for investments in new activities, for example agritourism, processing, or networks in the food supply chains. There is a support for innovation and cooperation. In the pillar 2 is also takes place the leader approach for local development projects that are bottom-up projects to develop local action strategy. And also you have additional environmental payments for ecosystem services, so for practices that go beyond the eco schemes and beyond the conditionality. So both pillars combine create conditions for farmers to provide multiple functions. Functions that cover economic, environmental, and social objectives beyond just food production. In the next lesson, we will see more in detail the pillar 1, so the direct payments and the market measures. So we will explore how direct payments work, the different types of payments, the conditionality requirements, the market intervention mechanism, the sectoral programs, and some concrete example from partners countries. So now we have seen the structure of the CAP, its basic functioning. In the next video, we will see how pillar 1 works in practices. So thank you for your attention.